What type of newsletter to start? So this is a question I still get from time to time on X, or formerly known as Twitter, is what type of newsletter should I start? Right? And yeah, so today I want to share with you guys four or five different newsletters that you can start today with some examples. All right? So let's start. So the first one is the curated roundup newsletter. So what is this? So this is like a newsletter where you find interesting content like YouTube videos, blogs, tweets, interesting tools, music, etc. Right? Depending on the theme of the newsletter, right? So take for example, the Tim Ferriss, right? His newsletter, right? Five Bullet Friday, right? It's a curate newsletter of interesting things that he's reading, gadgets he's trying out, music is listening, maybe food he's eating, right? So that's his, right? So what's the pros about starting a curated newsletter? So first off, they're easier to produce, right? Because you really don't have to produce any content. Right? All you have to do is just go out and look for content or interesting things to add to that week's newsletter, right? It's usually, offers high value to busy readers, right? Who want the best stuff without having to research, right? Again, that's what Tim Ferriss does, right? He's finding interesting things, and it's like five bullets, really short email here. These are the five things I'm doing this week, right? It helps you build a brand around curation, right? So if you want to grow that brand around that, then that's something you want to take into consideration, right? And also lower barrier to ask, right? You can start with minimal content, right? You literally just have to find five interesting things or 10 interesting things, right? And just send them out every single week, right? Depending on your weekly, how much you want to send out the emails. The cons, right? So you need to stay on top of you need to stay on top of a lot of external content, right? Which requires good source security, right? You can't just find, you know, typical things that other people are sharing, right? You want to find unique things that could make you stand out, right? So that's kind of the hard thing, right? Because there's a lot of other newsletters that are doing curation, right? And sometimes they're sharing the same thing with other creators, right? But so what you want to do here is like find interesting things that most people are not won't be able to find, right? And that's where you can stand out, right? Again, your risk of seeming generic, right? If many others are curating similar. Again, what I just said, right? Less control over quality, voice, external content, right? Sometimes things break, it's become outdated. This is something that you don't have control of, right? Again, sometimes people delete their tweets or like they delete something, right? So if somebody comes back a month, 2 months later, right, or even a year, right, and then they click the link, it won't work, right? So yeah, and then just harder to differentiate unless your commentary or angle is unique, right? Again, like I Bullet Friday, like Tim Ferriss, right? It's not special, but just because he built the brand around himself, right? Tim Ferriss, right? And things that he's trying out, that's how he's standing out, right? It's about him, like things that he's doing, things that he's reading, right? So that's something that you might want to try to do, right? The example course, look at it. You can sign up to his newsletter and see what I'm talking about. The next one is educational, right? So this one's a pretty fun one. Like I really like educational newsletters, right? Depending on like the subject that I really want to learn, right? So you regularly send insights, right? Actionable tips, right? Tutorials, best practices, right? Helping people to learn something new, like could be a mindset, skill, software related, anything to your niche, right? The pros, right? Builds trust, right? People see you as a go-to expert, right? So if you're like doing a lot of weekly insights tutorials, right? You're going to become known as the go-to expert of this issue, right? So it's something to take into account, right? So get this, like, because last year when I was doing the newsletter thing on X, right? Beehive, right? I will share a lot of things on Beehive, and people still come to me about Beehive related things, right? Helps with long-term retention of subscribers because they benefit right directly from knowledge, right? Is something really true, right? People stay a lot longer on your newsletter, subscribe, right? Because they're learning, right? Every week they know they'll learn something new, right? Encourages engagement, right? Readers may reply, try tips, share results. Another good thing about educational content, right? If you show something new, right, in newsletter and how it could help your reader, they're usually gonna reply. They're gonna be like, "Oh, like thank you so much for sharing this. Like I just did it and it like just blew my mind," right? So yeah, something really cool. Good content out converts well if you're offering for the training course and product. Yeah, that's true, right? So like if you want to deeper into the product, right? Like, where users are not just getting high level information from your newsletter, right? But if they want to level up next, right? Then yeah, you could just do that. And then the cons, higher effort per issue, right? You want to make sure, right? There's a lot of research going on. Then it might require very content so you don't repeat yourself, for our audience, right? So yeah. And I think there's an example newsletter here that I have. Uh, this one, I mean, the 3-2-1 newsletter from James Clear is pretty good. Like you're learning two things. You're learning three things, I think, or two things. So yeah, deep dives. So deep dives are very hard newsletters to do, but if you want to do it and you're into it, then this is something you might want to check out, right? Because you'll build trust. You'll go to go-to person for that niche, right? It helps subscribers learn from others, right? Can convert readers into buyers, and really high. And the bad thing, of course, is really high effort per issue, requires time. An example is this newsletter here, right? Growth in reverse, right? Like they just do really high level research, right, on how the person grew their newsletter, right, or their social media presence, right, and they just go over a deep dive. So this will take time, right? And so if you want to do something like that, then I highly recommend you check out that newsletter for insights. And then the personal newsletter, right? So that's the fourth one, right? It's the more personal style, right? One person voice, stories, reflection, lessons learned. It could be like ideas, current events, less frequent but deeper, right? So strong emotional connection readers, right? So they'll get to know you, right? Can build a very loyal audience, right? And differentiate, right? So this one will be good if you're like doing YouTube or like X and LinkedIn, and you just have a really big following. You want to just do something personal about yourself, right? Then yeah. The risk, of course, could be burnout, right? And might have narrow appeal. Not everyone wants to read longer, more intricate content, right? Which could be true, but also cannot be true, right? So it's up to your readers and your content as well at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day, it's up to your content, right? If your content's really good, then people are going to stay and read the whole thing. And then promotional, right? So these are the newsletters that you probably get in your inbox every single day, right? They focus on driving conversions on your product, right? So think of like Coca-Cola, Gymshark emails, right? I get a lot of Gymshark emails, right? Uh, all they do is just tell me their things, right? So, you know, it pretty much works. I don't buy every time, right? But like, it works where, because they're staying top of mind, right? So when you keep sending emails, right, some of those people are going to click buy and you're going to make money from those emails, right? The other thing is too, right? It's just a lot of promotions, right? And people might unsubscribe, right? That's the only cons about it. It's just a lot of emails. They might just get bored of it, right? And so an example for that will be again any email marketing newsletter. And that's pretty much it. So those are the 5 types of email newsletters that you can start right now. Also, if you guys need help with your welcome email, I do have welcome email templates that you can go and download in the description below, right? You could just copy and paste your 3 templates. You could just copy and paste whatever, which one works for you and fill out the blanks for your newsletter. All right. So if you guys have any questions about newsletters or anything like that, just comment down below and see you guys later. Peace.